Here we go. We're off and running. Welcome into the 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Coming up here on the show, Week 5 preview, big NFC West matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. This game happening on Thursday Night Football at SoFi Stadium, just outside of Los Angeles, otherwise known as Levi Stadium South. And because the 49ers have question marks at quarterback, because they're banged up as a football team, the Niners here nearly touchdown underdogs. The Rams, 6.5-point favorites. And so you look at that line right there and you're like, wow, the Niners are getting 6.5 points. Not really that much of a surprise because the odds makers don't know who's going to play quarterback, who's going to be available for the Niners in a short week. Kickoff is set for 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, October 22nd, and the over-under 47 even. We will be live for another watch party right here on the channel. You don't want to miss it. It's the best place to experience a Niners game day outside of being at the actual game. We'll do a long pregame show, about an hour, so hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon as well and turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime I push out a video like this, anytime we go live, you will be notified. And of course, this game will have NFC West implications. As I noted, the 49ers still atop the division at 3-1. The Seahawks right on their heels at 3-1. They're in second place because the Niners won the head-to-head, and the Rams at 3-1. So basically, pretty much at this juncture of the season, a three-way tie for first place in the NFC West between the Niners, Seahawks, and Rams. And then you have the Arizona Cardinals there at 2-2. I had said a couple of weeks ago, I think this division is going to be very tight. Wouldn't surprise me if any of these teams end up winning the division. I think that the top three, obviously, a little bit better than Arizona. But Arizona, as we saw 2 weeks ago, a very feisty team. And so I don't think this division is going to be settled until later in the year. Shoot, it could come down to about week 18. The Rams so far this season with that 3-1 record, week 1, they got a win over the Houston Texans, a low-scoring affair, 14-9. Then they went on the road to Nashville, beat the Titans in week 2, 33-19. That game was kind of close early on before the Rams really put it on in the second half. Then Los Angeles took a huge advantage over the Eagles in week 3. And they got off to a very impressive start. I mean, they were dominating Philadelphia. The Eagles' offense couldn't do anything. Then in the second half, they fell apart. They gave up 26 unanswered points. They gave up 2 blocked field goals in the fourth quarter, and the Eagles had a walk-off field goal blocked return for a touchdown. The Rams flushed that, and in a hard-fought game at home against the Indianapolis Colts, they win 27-20. Tutu Atwell, a long touchdown, the longest of Matthew Stafford's career, to help really decide that game late. As for the 49ers, also 3-1. Week 1, very hard-fought win over the Seattle Seahawks, 17-13. And I think the Seahawks are a really good team. So that's a quality dub right there. Then you get a win with the backup quarterback on the road week 2 against the New Orleans Saints. Mac Jones played well, propelled the Niners to a 26-21 victory. Then the Niners come back to beat the Arizona Cardinals. Mac Jones terrific on that game-winning drive. Eddie Pinheiro with the game-winning field goal as the clock bled out. 16-15 the final score there. Then a disastrous loss against Jacksonville. The Niners played as poorly as they could have played, making mistakes left and right. They were sloppy. They weren't buttoned up, yet they still had a chance to win that game late before Eric Armstead, the former Niner, strip sack Brock Purdy, blouses ball game. Niners fall 26-21 to suffer their first defeat of the season. As for how the Rams stack up, obviously a lot of offensive firepower with Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua. They add Devontae Adams. They have really done a better job of fortifying the offensive line the last couple of years. Kyle Shanahan, take note. Kyron Williams, also a really good running back. Their numbers kind of all across the board here. 13th in points per game at 25. 4th in yards per game at nearly 400. 388.3. They are number 3 in yards per play at 6.2. 13th on third downs. Just okay in the red zone. 21st there at 50%. Defensively, really good defensive unit. led by Chris Shula. 10th in points per game at 20.3, 9th in yards per game at 284.5, 10th in yards per play, 8th on third downs, and then middle of the pack in the red zone. They're giving up touchdowns about 60% of the time. Then you flip the page to how the Niners have fared on both sides of the pill so far. Only 20 points per game. That's a problem for a Kyle Shanahan-led team that ranks 23rd among the 32 teams across the NFL. They are 5th in yards per game, so they are moving it. 13th in yards per play. Not a ton of explosives if you take away the Ricky Pearsall plays downfield. A lot of that due to the fact that San Francisco hasn't been able to run the ball. They are 3rd on third downs at 48%. The red zone problems, they continue. Bad offensive line play, injuries, inconsistencies at the quarterback spot. 27th at 42.8%. That's worse than last year. Defensively, you have to be so impressed with what Robert Saleh's unit has been able to do. Obviously, the Niners sorely missed Nick Bosa on Sunday. More on that coming up just around the corner. But they're 7th in points per game allowed at 18.8. 5th in yards per game at 280.5. 6th in yards per play, 2nd on third downs at 32%, and then 10th in the red zone. Those numbers drastically better compared to last year when Nick Sorensen was calling the defense. Of course, as always, have to talk some Niners injuries because they can't escape the injury bug, and they can't get the injury luck on their side. Brock Purdy, questionable with that turf toe that he kind of re-aggravated in that game against Jacksonville. Don't think he should have played. He did. Made that injury worse. And then the Niners' number one wideout, Ricky Pearsall, who is one of the top wide receivers in the game this year, number 3 in receiving yards across the NFL. He's questionable because of a PCL sprain in his knee. I would be very surprised if he plays. Elsewhere on the Niners injury report, this was the estimated injury report on Monday, as I record this show on Tuesday. The Niners did not practice, but if they did, this is how they would list those players because it's a Thursday game. Per NFL rules, they had to release an injury report. Robert Beal, ankle, would not have participated. Renardo Green, neck, didn't play against the Jags. Limited participant. Yetur Gross-Matos, knee, did not participate, but he hasn't practiced all year, even though he's played. Wide receiver Jawan Jennings, ankle, rib, DNP. Quarterback Mac Jones, this is a good sign with Brock Purdy potentially being out, would have been a full participant. Colton McKivitt's calf, full participant. Ricky Pearsall, DNP with the knee. Brock Purdy, DNP with the toe. Jordan Watkins, DNP with the calf. CJ West, thumb. Might be able to cast that up, but DNP on Monday. Michael Williams, wrist oblique, limited. And then D. Winters, who has been a revelation this year, has played awesome. Knee injury, limited participant. The Rams, a pretty healthy ball club. They have been banged up in recent years. Tyler Higbee and Rob Havenstein, the tight end and offensive lineman, would have been non-participants. Offensive lineman Steve Avila, ankle, full participant. Colby Parkinson, shoulder, full participant. And then Cam Kitchens, the rookie out of Miami, shoulder, a limited participant. In scouting the Rams, obviously a lot of people know the Rams very well, but they've evolved the last couple of years under Sean McVay, and obviously they're a different team this year than they were last year. Puka Nacua is still incredible. He has over 500 yards receiving through the first 4 games of the year. Number 1 among all wideouts. And what stands out to me is how he's used all across the formation in a variety of ways. And he's not the twitchiest, fastest guy, but Sean McVay does a great job of getting him open with his size. Such a good player with contested catches. He can pick up yards after the catch. He's tough to bring down. And he is just an awesome football player. Plays physical, so I worry about the longevity for his career, but right now, just an awesome player. Matthew Stafford, at his age, he can still sling it. I had injury concerns about the back going into this year. It's held up. That can obviously flare up at any moment, but man, he can really sling it. The defensive line, led by Jared Verse, can really get after it, and Jared Verse is having a phenomenal year. If there is an area on the defense that the Niners can exploit and attack, it's the secondary. Their corner play is very suspect. And then this year, we are seeing more of Matthew Stafford operate from under center, and they're running a lot of play action from under center. This allows Stafford, throughout his drop back, to survey and keep his eyes on the defense, to manipulate the defense, and it's led to a lot of explosive plays downfield. And obviously, Davante Adams, at this stage of his career, much better player than Cooper Kupp. Scouting the Niners, they sorely missed Nick Bosa in Week 4. For the first time in a game since 2015, San Francisco did not register a sack or a quarterback hit. Not going to be good long-term if that continues to be the case. The red zone offense, it stinks. A big reason for that, they can't run it, and obviously they're missing the likes of George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. And the Niners' inability to run the ball has hurt them obviously in the pass game. Because San Francisco is banged up, and because on offense they're a little bit one-dimensional right now, there's not a lot of margin for error, especially when you think about the defense too. If you want to factor that in, they're young, and so there are going to be some mistakes there. And they just can't afford to make too many mistakes because they're not good enough right now, or at least playing well enough right now to overcome those mistakes. We saw that against Jacksonville. And then the big question for the Niners going into this game, who's going to play at quarterback? If I were to guess right now, going to be Mac Jones. So who you got in this football game? SF for the 49ers, LAR for the Los Angeles Rams, with Purdy, by the way, too, has turf toe. SoFi surface is toe. I'll give you my prediction coming up here at the end of the program. Now, coming up next, I'm going to give you a lot here. Continue to hang out here with us. Keys to the game, matchups to watch, what the 49ers must do in order to win this football game. But today's 49ers report, our Niners-Rams preview, great rivalry inside the NFC West. It is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks has a couple of new features. It's the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup, only on PrizePicks. Follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. Very simple to play. You can get your picks in less than 60 seconds. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money. We have a 2-pick power play that we like for Thursday night. Christian McCaffrey more than 48.5 receiving yards. That's been a go-to of late because he's catching the ball a lot. And then Puka Nacua more than 97.5 receiving yards. If the Niners can't generate pressure on Stafford, it could get ugly, and Puka Nacua could go off. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, to the back half of the show. Coming up here on the San Francisco 49ers report, Chase Senior hanging out here with you. Going into this Thursday night affair between the Niners and the Rams at SoFi Stadium, this is a really good matchup, even though the Niners are banged up. San Francisco big underdogs in this game, 6.5-point underdogs to be exact. I'm going to give you my keys to the game, matchups to watch, what the Niners must do to win this game, and then I'll round out with my prediction for this ball game. Key to the game number 1. Whoever is playing at the quarterback spot for the Niners, whether it be Brock Purdy or Mac Jones, I'm recording this show on Tuesday, the offensive line must pass protect. And if the Niners don't bring it along the offensive line, going to be a long night. And it's very simple. The Rams can wreck the game if they own the Niners along the line of scrimmage with their defensive line. And this is a fantastic defensive line. They're very deep. They have a lot of really good players. The offseason addition of Poona Ford gave them a very good run-stopping defensive tackle. But of course, the star along that Rams defensive line, second-year player Jared Verse, who last year won Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I think at some point in the future, he has Defensive Player of the Year potential. Through 4 games, he has an overall PFF grade of 91.5, a pass rush grade identical to that, a good run defender as well, 66.3 the grade there. PFF doesn't count half sacks. He has 2 of them according to PFF. And then his pressures and hurries, 18 pressures, 11 hurries. Jared Verse going up against Colt McKivitz. Big matchup in this game. I think the Rams are going to have Verse mostly on the Niners' right side of the line of scrimmage. And Colton McKivitz has one of the best pass blocking grades in the NFL up until this point. But when he goes up against elite players, that's when he gets exposed. Just got that contract extension. The Niners need him to play well. Does he play well? Verse can travel too, and Trent Williams hasn't had the best year either. Looks as though the age is catching up to him. Jared Verse could wreck the game, and obviously with a strip sack, forcing a pick with the quarterback hit, quarterback pressure, that could turn the tide of this ball game as it did for the Niners against Jacksonville last Sunday. All eyes for this Niners defense have to be on Puka Nacua. And here's the issue. If the Niners defensive line, which could not get home against the Jags, can't get home against Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams, Stafford's going to have all day to throw. He can go through his progressions. He can sit back there, pick some grass, and at some point, Puka Nacua is going to get open. Even when he's not open, he's able to use his size as kind of like a power forward to box out DBs. His numbers through 4 games, ridiculous. He's been targeted 50 times. He has 42 catches in 4 games. Obviously, that's more than 10 receptions per game already. 503 yards. You translate that to a full season, my goodness, 12 yards per catch and 1 touchdown. Going to be a big matchup for Diamador Lenore. We'll see if Renardo Green can play in this game. He missed the Jags game with a neck injury. If he doesn't play, and we see Puka Nacua going up against the likes of Darrell Luter Jr., I don't like that mismatch. San Francisco's defensive line has to do something. And I didn't like what I saw from this Niners defensive line against Jacksonville. Now, obviously, I've talked about these numbers this week. No sacks or a quarterback hit in a game against Jacksonville. First time that has happened for the Niners as a franchise since 2015. But in their first game without Nick Bosa, you would think that other players along that defensive line, with how they have attacked this year, will have that mindset of, we got to hustle. We got to play hard. We got to take these plays to the whistle and sometimes beyond the whistle. The hustle and the motor from the Niners defensive line was kind of embarrassing. And I thought Brian Baldinger did a great film breakdown. When Fred Warner had that peanut punch to force the fumble, the Jags offensive line was able to beat the Niners defensive line to the ball. No Niners defensive linemen were hustling after the ball. Inexcusable. And without Nick Bosa, that should give you the thought process of, we have to try harder without a defensive player of the year caliber guy who's now out for the year. And also, this Niners team gave up some explosive runs. Kyron Williams is having a really good year. This has been an emphasis for Sean McVay over the last few years. Make the offensive line better, establish the run, which can obviously set up the play action pass, which the Rams are doing a lot of. And when they have both going, this looks like one of the best teams in the NFL. And if Matthew Stafford has all night to throw because he's not under duress at all, good night. When he does get put under siege, he can turn the football over and he can make some mistakes, whether it's a fumble or a pick. Cue the game number 4. Given what happened against Jacksonville, that was an inexcusable performance. This Niners team doesn't have a great margin for error, especially with their lineup being so banged up. They're missing so many marquee players and they're young. And so when you make mistakes like you did against Jacksonville, everything becomes bigger, right? And you feel it more. And so you have to protect the ball and then you have to clean up special teams. Special teams continues to be a joke for San Francisco. And against Jacksonville, the Niners really put together a guide for how to lose a football game. They lost a turnover margin 4-0. When you lose a turnover margin at the NFL level, you lose about 80% of the time. They dropped 6 passes, a lot of those passes in key spots. Kendrick Bourne may have had a house call. Christian McCaffrey, if Brock Purdy puts that on him, tit pass led to a pick. He could have scored a touchdown. The Luke Farrell fumble, next play, 48-yard score. After the Kendrick Bourne drop that I just mentioned, 87-yard punt return for a touchdown. You gave up that punt return for a touchdown. The coverage was dog shit. The quarterback played like crap. Brock Purdy wasn't 100%. Offensive line was bad, had drops, and he didn't play well. All of those things can be true. And the Niners did not generate a pass rush. I mean, that is a 5-step guide for how to make it impossible for your ball club to win a football game. And because the Niners are shorthanded, it's a short week. You're on the road, you are hurt, and you're playing against a really good team. You pretty much have to be perfect in this game, which is why the Niners are pretty much touchdown underdogs in this game. And then lastly, Kyle Shanahan wants to run the ball. That has been the patented backbone of Kyle Shanahan's outside zone scheme. He wants to establish the run and run the ball. When the Niners are able to run it effectively and take the lead early in games, they can dictate the pace, the flow, and the momentum of a game. When they have to play catch up and they have to throw too much and they can't run it all that much, that's when they really start to fall apart at the seams. And so far this year, the Niners have not been able to run the ball. I don't think it's because Christian McCaffrey looks bad. In fact, I think he looks good. He has the third most all-purpose yards in the NFL. It's because this offensive line stinks, especially in the red zone, especially along the interior. And then you could still run to the left side behind Trent Williams, but he's not the same guy. McCaffrey, up until this point, has 69 carries for 225 yards. He's only averaging 3.3 yards per carry. The Niners are the only team in the NFL without a rushing touchdown. You just can't play that way for an entire season. Now, through the air, Christian McCaffrey's been incredible. 43 targets, 31 catches, 305 yards, 9.8 yards per catch. That's great. Honestly, I don't want to see too much of that because what this tells me, not a lot of other wide receivers are getting open downfield. And so Brock Purdy or Mac Jones has to hit CMC on the checkdowns a lot. He's so gifted in receiving it, but you'd love to be more well-rounded if possible. So with that, predict the score. Niners, Rams. Do you think San Francisco can pull off the upset as 6.5-point dogs? Look, as of this recording, I'm not sure who's going to play quarterback, but I also don't like how this game is shaping up for San Francisco. You are injured. You have uncertainty at the quarterback spot. Your offensive line is not good. The Rams' defensive line is great. You have to travel, go up against an elite team. And the odds makers are saying the Rams are big-time favorites in this game. I think the Rams win 30-20 because these two teams know each other very well. It might be close for a little while, but I think because the Rams are the better, more talented, deeper, and healthier team throughout the course of 60, they end up pulling away.